Still about the economy tonight as we focus on dollar illiquidity and impact on the Nigerian economy. My guest tonight is Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, an investments banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. Really glad to have you on Politics Tonight. Thank you. Right. So, interestingly, this is the third time we're having this discussion this week. And this is so because something just has to happen. I mean, as we set to get to the root causes of this issue, it's also very important for us to know the short-term measures that can help us strengthen our Naira. So the first question to you now is, why is the Naira in such a low state?
Naira is in such a low state because the last administration emptied the treasury and left no room for Nigeria to be able to stabilize price of goods and services in the market. And I will explain it. If you look at Nnaemeka's last press release, he mentioned clearly that the Central Bank of Nigeria inherited unpaid letter of credit obligation forward of about $7 billion. We simply mean that not only was the treasury empty, we also did not even have dollar liquidity position to pay obligations contracted by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And we know what happened. It was a bazaar for 8 years. And I want us to understand this, and then before we'll be able to provide solution, going back to history, go and check and verify this. Between 2015 to 2023, total dollar inflow to the farmer market into Nigeria was about $635 billion. Export proceeds of $406 billion. I will break it down. Borrowing of $32 billion. Reserve inherited of $29 billion. Foreign diaspora remittances of $168 billion over the 8 years. Total import bill, including education and health tourism, was about $451 billion. Net inflow, net. Nigeria should be having about $184 billion net inflow in our reserve. Basically, why did Nnaemeka meet an empty treasury? We know that 23 trillion naira was printed and wasted over that 8 years. We also know that over 18.6 trillion was borrowed. As at June 30, 2015, total debt profile of Nigeria was 12 trillion. Out of that 10 trillion, $10 billion was dollar related and the rest was Naira. Buhari left it at 77 trillion Naira. And now, there was also money that were supposed to come into differential account that got missing along the line. Between 2011 and 2015, Nigeria was doing average crude oil production daily of about 2.3 to 2.5 million barrels, crude oil and condensates. Under Buhari, it disappeared to such a level that even the GMD, current GMD of NNPC, was live on Arise TV, and he mentioned it clearly that on a monthly basis, Nigeria loses $1.9 billion worth of crude oil resources to thieves and inefficiency. Over $22 billion that was supposed to come to the professional account lost. So basically, we have a hole of $185 billion. We're talking about former remittances and receipts. We're not talking about dollar cash that came in through Nigerians and diaspora. Because we know that traditionally most Nigerians come in with cash. We're talking about those funds that flew in through the former sector. So basically, we have a hole that was created through the bazaar that happened over the last 8 years. And we cannot start an inquest on fixing this. Obasanjo experienced the same thing when he became president in 1999. Our dollar inflow, our dollar resources were filtered out of Nigeria by the Abacha family and their associates. What Obasanjo did was quietly call them to order, negotiated with them. See, today, some of the monies Abacha took out of Nigeria is still being recovered. I think the current president, irrespective of the fact that they are an extension of the old government, must take out time. If they don't have the capacity, they should engage forensic investigators, investment bankers, and auditors. We have many experienced Nigerians in this economy that can help them to track what happened to those huge dollar inflows that disappeared. And one of the shortest ways we can show up that liquidity is not even to borrow, because we don't even have headroom to borrow. It's for us to go after those that took our dollar in a very scientific and concerted way and negotiate with them to bring back part of these dollars out of the system. That is one way Nigerians can be reassured that we are doing the right thing. The second one, we must stop the criminal demand on the dollar. If you watch, Nnaemeka also took some deft monetary policy and FX policy moves that stabilized the Naira to the dollar over the last 2 weeks. It hovered between 1485 to 1500. But over the last 4 or 5 days, it had galloped to over 1600. Why? We recently shared FAC and JAC to the governors. And this is the truth, and this is something we cannot miss. Go and check. Once they receive the FAC, once they receive the JAC, they pursue the dollar at whatever rate. And that is why we are where we are today. Insecurity is another issue. Because
so,
most of the things
Doctor, before we get to the matter of insecurity, I mean, some of the reasons you've highlighted before now, are you saying these are the reasons? I mean, these reasons are also responsible for a dollarized economy in Nigeria?
Yes, that is exactly what I've explained to you. See, the FX market, just like any commodity or currency market, is driven by the simple law of demand and supply. Once the supply of any commodity or currency far exceeds the demand, the prices will be stable. In fact, the Naira will gain over the dollar. I've just simply explained to you, this does not take any skyrocket science. Our total dollar inflow from 2015 to 2023 was far more than our total dollar outflow through honest transactions. So what happened to the excess $184 that came into this market? That is the question we should be asking. We have a lot of leakages, crude oil theft, and a lot of things that happened within those periods. See, we cannot solve the problem by closing our eyes to what happened and to why we are where we are today. Look at what happened between Obasanjo's government, Yar'Adua's government, Jonathan's government. A period of 60 years, Naira to dollar lost only 111 Naira. It was 88 Naira when Obasanjo became president, exchange rate. When Jonathan left, it was 199 Naira. 111. Under Buhari, we had an arbitrage gap between the parent, and if you watch, from Obasanjo to Jonathan, the arbitrage gap between the autonomous market rate, official rate, and parent was only between 1 Naira, 152 Naira. But under Buhari and Emefiele, there was a huge gap that even sense could not resist playing the kind of game that happened within those periods. So the truth is, when it comes, I will really have solutions, things we can do in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term, to make sure that this economy is rescued. But I can tell you, everything I'm going to say will still go back to the very foundation of this country that we need to fix.
Right, so we'll get there, but let's take it one step at a time. On February 1st, the CBN continued its foreign exchange market reforms by removing the limits on the forex rate quoted by international money transfer operators. And for the CBN, this is aimed at strengthening the Naira. How optimistic are you about these latest steps?
Very optimistic. But like I said, very optimistic, but these measures are only elixirs. These measures are only what I call opiates. They are not panacea to the root cause of the problem. Basically, what Nnaemeka also have done is to remove those caps. It simply means you can bring in your dollar, negotiate with whoever is buying from you at whatever rate, hand over dollar and take Naira within the local economy, which is very, very good. And you could see the impact of what happened over the first 1 week when he put in place this measure. Most foreign portfolio investment, which we call hot money, those are not the kind of investment we are looking at. At least temporarily, it is providing reprieve, came into this country. For the first time, we had over $1 billion liquidity. Because what basically did was to bring in dollar, do swap with CBN in such a way that they are having a rate of return that they cannot get anywhere within other economies in the West or in Asia. But these are temporary reprieves. Yemi can only do 10% because he's just doing the budget. But the 90% of the problem is on the physical side. Yemi does not print dollar, number one. Yemi is not the one that controls and protects our crude oil assets. It's the NNPC. Yemi is not the one that controls allocations to the governors. Yemi is not EFCC. And Yemi has no power or authority to stop those who collect FAC and jack from using it to buy dollar at whatever rate that they can see. Most of the steps Yemi Cardoso have taken are actually interventionism. And interventionism does not solve the root cause of the problem. I have explained to you clearly where the root cause of these problems are. Our crude oil outputs must be ramped up to 2.5 million barrels a day, even to 3 million barrels a day. And again, in the short run, NNPC, as currently structured, is not like the British Petroleum, the Petrobras, or the Petronas of this whole world. The federal government of Nigeria has no business still controlling 100% stake in NNPC. If today we want to flow liquidity massively into the economy, the federal government of Nigeria should take urgent steps to sell down 55% of its holding in NNPC, just like they did in the LLNG. If you look at LLNG today, it is owned 51% by private investors and 49% by the federal government of Nigeria. And it is so efficiently run with corporate governance cultures in place. If we decide to sell 55% of our holding there, that's about $32 billion that will inflow into this economy. Then somebody will tell me, oh, doctor, it's going to take a long process. Yes, but if you appoint a book runner or an investment banking group like a JP Morgan Chase, a Goldman Sachs, to midwife this, even on the interim, against the proceeds that will come from this sale over time, we can inflow in about $15–20 billion as preliminary funding, a kind of a bridging facility towards this. But the truth is, if we decide today to adopt this step, over the next 2–3 years, we will have inflowing into this economy over $50 billion new investment. And I will tell you this, Nigeria in the past have done about 2.5 million barrels a day. Those oil wells are there. Most of them have been capped by the oil majors. Nigeria has capacity to ramp up our reserve to about 40 billion barrels a day. 40 billion barrels. Nigeria can do 3 million barrels a day. Even if our open quota is 1.78 million barrels, we can refine the rest. Going forward, if we are to do marginal field rounds, any company that must get our marginal field, unlike before, when we just touch it based on people that knows their way into Aso Rock, anybody or any company that wants to get a marginal field block must show capacity by way of getting a letter of guarantee from a Class A bank. And if you have a field that can do up to 1,000, 5,000 barrels a day, you must collocate a modular refinery to be able to refine it here. We can meet our open quota and refine even the excess within this economy. Nigeria has capacity to provide the wide petroleum product need of the rest of Sub-Saharan Africa. After all, some of them coming from Kazakhstan, from Russia, cannot be able to meet the logistics when we have it being refined here in Nigeria. There are different things we can do to show up the supply side of the dollar in such a way that when the supply is more than $1, if we are producing 2.5 million barrels of crude today, net, we are grossing $68 billion into this. And if you check the import volume annually, from 2010 till now, on average, our import volume through honest transactions is not more than $56 billion, average over the last 10 years. Basically, what has been driving the fall of the Naira is 50% driven by the volume of monumental corruption by the fiscal managers across the 3 tiers and arms of government in Nigeria.
All right. So, Doctor, if you're saying that the CBN interventions, the latest steps taken by CBN are long-term measures, how then do we fix the supply side of the dollar?
I've explained it to you. To fix the supply side of the dollar, short-term, the first measure, get forensic auditors and investigators to work with the EFCC to follow the money trail and to go after those who cannot account for the excess $184 billion that came into this economy. Even if they agree to bring 70%, it will help us. And it will also put out there the right signal to the global world. Number 2, protect our oil resources and assets. Ramp up output to 2.5 million barrels a day. Number 3, put in place anti-corruption measures that stops the purchase of the dollar using corrupt proceeds. And I've advocated what we can do. It's very simple. Amend the CCB Act. Every elected political office holder, just as it is done everywhere in the whole world, must be able to declare their assets and liabilities publicly. And it must be established in an e-portal where it can be seen and renewed annually. Number two, the whistleblowing provision must be enshrined in that act in such a way that every Nigerian become an agent of EFCC. If you blow a whistle that helps to recover a stolen fund by way of assets or whatever, you will get 20% of it and protected. Such laws will enable Nigerians, even the bankers that will help you to move the money, will even blow the whistle. And if the policeman arrests you, you've stolen 1 billion, he won't collect 10 million naira to leave you, knowing fully well that he can make 200 million naira, picking you up and prosecuting you. These are measures. And the CCB must be established in every of the local government areas in Nigeria. Agencies under PPP framework. There are many ways we can do this. Then we must divest and devolve security to the constituent units. The food shortages we have in Nigeria today is because of insecurity. Both peasants and commercial farmers are not going to their farms because of insecurity. And it has been proven over time that the current security architecture of Nigeria cannot fix this security. Buhari wasted $27 billion over the last 8 years. Yet insecurity festered from the northeast to every part of Nigeria today. If we want to fix insecurity, we need to devolve security back to what we had in the 1960s. Absolutely. Allow the regions and the communities, train them, empower them. Peter Obi did it in Anambra State when he was governor. Kidnappers were on the prowl. People could not go to Onitsha to go and purchase things. He decided to set up vigilantes, allowing the communities to contribute their own sons. He equipped them, gave them trust, gave them arms. In 6 months, they cleared their community of those vermins. Even the forest where they were hiding, he got permission from Yar'Adua to clear those forests. For 5 years, Anambra was the most secure state in Nigeria under his rule. We can replicate it in every part of Nigeria. Security is indigenous. Only the people of the communities will have the incentive, the motivation to protect themselves and allow them to go to the farms. No need waiting until state police is established. Communities, vigilantes, empowered. If you have organized vigilantes in communities with AK-47, with armored personnel carriers in every local government areas, and they put gates into the exit and entry points in their communities, I tell you, in 6 months, every part of Nigeria will be secure. Imagine Amotokun, where Amotokun have AK-47 and they have APC.
All right, Doctor. We still have a segment, or we still have some minutes later on in the show to dwell on security matters. But I'd like us to, for some minutes, dwell on the latest steps taken by the Central Bank of Nigeria, so ordinary Nigerians can understand better, especially where the CBN is coming from. Now, the Central Bank just cleared the backlog of forex demand. How long do you think this will go in addressing this liquidity gap?
The Central Bank of Nigeria has not cleared the whole backlog. I think the information is wrong.
Yes, some part of it. Yeah.
Central Bank of Nigeria, Nnaemeka also made us understand that out of the $7 billion he met, $2.4 billion are questionable. And that also brings us to the next thing. If Nnaemeka also found $2.4 billion on questionable forwards, why are Nigerians not seeing the list and name of the companies that wanted to scam us of $2.4 billion? It's good for us to know. It's very important for the sake of transparency and accountability. Now, the outstanding $2.5 billion, he has not yet cleared it because there is no dollar liquidity for him to do it. He's taking them gradually, of course, which is a good sign that things will get well. But the truth is, we cannot continue on this piecemeal measure. I have told us what we can do to clear the obligations. We have NNPC today is valued at about $60 billion, even more. Start an urgent process to sell down 55% of the federal government holding in NNPC. If we appoint a Goldman Sachs now to book run this, and they start the process, and Nigeria wants to borrow, say, $20 billion against the receivables and proceeds that will come from those sales, I tell you, investors will grab it. There are many other things we can do to show up the supply side. Nnaemeka also, like I said, have done the little best he could do based on the available resources available to him. He is not going to print dollar. He's not going to do any magic. Or he has practically exhausted all the monetary policy magic tools that you can deploy for now. The rest of the job is for the fiscal managers. We can't be talking about dollar illiquidity, and we hear flying around $16 million being signed to take clear Hajj backlog. It does not make sense. We must, as much as possible, channel every little dollar that we have now into things that add value to this economy. And we must take this urgent step. This is the only urgent step we can take now, because even ramping up output will take time. We need to start urgent process of divesting federal government holding in NNPC to less than 45% or 49%.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Let's go on a break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. You're watching Politics Tonight. We're going on a break now, and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.